Political analyst and co-founder of the WJC Jewish Diplomatic Corps. Andrei, thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight on Primetime. Good to have you with us. I mean, let's start with the basics then. If Doha focused on Hormuz and frozen funds, but not the nuclear issue, how should we evaluate this? Is it genuine progress, or are they really just tackling the easier subjects first?
It's always difficult to understand the strategy of both the U.S. administration under Donald Trump as well as the Iranian regimes, let alone today when we don't know who's in charge in Tehran, isn't it? We have all sorts of information streaming out of Tehran, including about the availability, let's put it this way, of the current supreme leader, Mujtaba Khamenei, the son of Ali Khamenei. We do not know if the speaker of the Iranian parliament, Baligaf, is really the point person, and whether he gets support also from the Revolutionary Guards, very importantly, when he speaks on behalf of Iran's regime. Or whether the foreign minister Arakchi gets the same sort of support, and he speaks on the same voice with the other branches of power in Tehran. So going back to your very important question, it's clear to everyone that without tackling this very important point, the nuclear element, this is not going to be resolved. One way or another, countries in the Gulf and beyond will feel this Damocles sword over their heads. And that's because Iran's regime, whether under Ali Khamenei or, over the last 4 months under supposedly his son's, leadership, has not moved 1 inch from their stated desire to, amongst others, destroy the state of Israel, but has also continuously attacked dozens of countries in the more than 10 countries, Muslim countries in the Gulf. Most of them, it's very hard to understand why they have been attacked. Because they were not part to the conflict in any way. We know that, for example, the United Arab Emirates have been subjected to more ballistic missiles and drone attacks than Israel, for example. And so, going back to your question, without the nuclear issue being not only tackled during these negotiations, but actually solved on the ground, via the safe removal of the highly enriched stockpile of uranium, which is currently believed to be buried underneath one of the mountains in Iran, as well as in other locations, other stockpiles of uranium and other materials which could be used to create nuclear bombs. This will not be solved, and people around the region will not be able to breathe more easily.
Moving on to another contentious issue, Andrei. Iran has said that from, I think they said mid-August, that they could look at imposing tolls on ships going through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, that has created some backlash, even outrage in some quarters. But are we right to be outraged by that? Because that's just logical leverage, isn't it? I mean, Mr. Trump has used every bit of leverage available to him. Should Iran not also use every bit of leverage available to them?
A fair question, but ultimately it's illegal, right? We keep on saying that countries around the world should be, should respect all international legislation, and so Iran is in breach of legislation when it tries to impose a toll. It already tried a couple of months ago to start imposing a toll. It has supposedly received some money in exchange for which they have permitted for some ships to pass through. And that's when Trump basically said, you know what, we'll block it on our end, and really make sure that Iran cannot play this game. And so, it's illegal. It's not the same case as those which are, straits which are man-made, such as the Panama Canal or the Suez Canal. In this case, there are multiple countries which share these waters, and there is legislation which basically does not permit for Iran to levy any toll, let alone a toll on any ship which passes through any part of the Straits of Hormuz, including through the Omani side, which we know there are basically three lanes currently in the Straits of Hormuz. One which is close to Iran, one which is in the middle, which is where 99% of the traffic was happening up until the end of February, up until the U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran started, and the Iranians decided to try and close the Straits of Hormuz. And then there is the Omani side, and the Omani side has basically, permitted for ships to pass through their waters, and many ships have done so, including those under a U.S. Sort of protection convoy. But Iran is obviously not happy with that, so they've threatened again today and yesterday. They've threatened all insurers and shipping companies and countries not to try and use the Omani side of the Straits of Hormuz, because they will attack with drones or other means. They will attack these ships again, as they've tried continuously over the last few days. And over the last 2 weeks, I think 14 one-way, kamikaze drones were downed by the U.S. In and around, in other parts of the Gulf.
Now, Andrei, the Qataris say that there was positive progress. To be honest, though, neither side's really giving much away, are they? Where are the real sticking points now?
So I think the sticking points, in addition to those that we started this phase of the war, because Iran has been at war with the U.S., with Israel, and with many other parts of the Sunni Muslim world, and not only with those since the revolution, but since this moment, since the strikes on Iran. I think it was very clear. It's the nuclear issue, it's the ballistic missile issue, and it's also the proxies, Hezbollah and the Houthis, and the militias in Iraq and beyond. Iran should focus on strengthening its population and providing for the population. We know that Tehran, the capital city, it's impossible to continue living in Tehran. Even the president of Iran has said that, because of a lack of drinkable water. It's almost on the brink. Iran should focus on these elements instead of wasting these tens of billions of dollars per annum on these ambitions which are destructive. So I think, if we reach some sort of agreement on these issues, on the three main sticking points, the nuclear, the proxies, and the ballistic, then we are going to see relief for Iran, but really for the Iranian citizens, rather than seeing relief for the ambitions of destruction of the Revolutionary Guard and of the mullah system. And everyone will be happy, and I'm sure that Trump and his administration will be ready to accommodate for different ways to help the Iranian population going forward. It was a relief to hear your previous guest on your show discuss ambitions about space and beyond. This is what humanity can do in the future. And also we've seen as well the challenges in Pakistan with, and we see it in Venezuela with destruction. humanity should really gather resources to prevent and to protect rather than to try and destroy. And so, this message might be naive. It won't reach many ears in Tehran, but this is my message, and I think this is what Trump wants. Hopefully, not in a naive fashion.
I think that is a noble message, and it's one that I think many would agree. We all hope for peace. I guess that people will have their own views on which side they support. That's perfectly understandable. But given the prominence put on this nuclear issue by President Trump, also by Israel, this is the main issue. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. We've heard it again and again and again that this is clearly very, very key to both the US and Israel. Why is it that they don't seem to have managed to deliver anything yet on that issue that really looks like it's the number one issue being discussed?
Look, ultimately, if you have a regime which will channel all resources towards this sort of ambition, regardless of how illogical to us, to you and me, this might be, they will do that. And this is what we've seen here. This is what we've seen, with North Korea. We've seen it also with Russia's war of Putin's ambition, an imperial war that he has launched upon Ukraine. Again, it's illogical. It doesn't address any sort of the top priorities that the respective countries should have, whether that's Iran, North Korea, or Russia, or others. But that's what you'll have, and so.
Andrei, forgive me, and I mean this with respect. We can all agree, how bad the other side is, and talk about that. But I mean, specifically on this question of the US and Israel stating that this is a really important strategy that they're looking to get a result on, and still being unable to get that result, why do you think that is?
I think it's partly because, Trump and the U.S. administration were not ready to carry this through. During the Second World War, the Allies have gone all the way to Berlin. If they would have stopped after Normandy, the Nazi regime would not have stopped the death machine, which was spreading those horrible results, let's put it this way, around Europe and beyond, in North Africa and beyond. And so, the U.S. administration has stopped short because of international and internal pressure, and also because of logistical issues. We've seen how one of the carriers, had a massive fire there. So there were all of these issues, but they've stopped short, and they are hoping that they have a counterparty now to really engage in conversation with and to reach an understanding instead of really continuing all the way through and potentially sending troops on the ground with machinery and so on, with a huge risk involved to remove the highly enriched uranium, which again is under, hundreds of meters of rock at this point. And, this is a massive undertaking logistically, obviously. But again, if we stop here, if this regime continues on and on, they will again fuel the same tens of billions of dollars per annum from the Iranian citizens towards this ambition. And Trump and his administration will not be there. The US will have another leader who will not be so focused on the Middle East. And so they are hoping, there are many in Tehran, in the regime, who are hoping to delay and then to rebuild the machinery and to rebuild, and to reach, and be a breakout country. The problem is that even versus North Korea, breakout would almost certainly, at least in my view, obviously, mean also a strike, not only on Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, but also potentially on many of the Sunni Muslim states, as we've seen now happen, with non-nuclear capabilities, but we've seen the destruction around the Gulf from Iran to countries which are not part of the conflict.
a contentious issue. We thank you, though, very much indeed, Andrei, for your analysis, and it's been great to have you with us tonight on Primetime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, after the break, we'll check in with our correspondents around the globe. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're watching Primetime. France is bracing for another dangerous spell of extreme heat.